Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, individual out there. Today, I would like to speak about appreciation and reverence. To be able to open up to a certain state of exploring and also perception and consciousness, especially to here in the moment and to your surroundings and your inner world. When you have appreciation and reverence for more or less everything, any happening that might occur, any teachings or lessons that we learn from it, or any outer physical sense perceptible forms and shapes and life, like the plants and the minerals, the animals, and us human beings too. If you are looking closely, you will find a lot of amazing things. And it is not to just do this to do this or to be in la la dreamland. This has nothing to do with trying to run away from everyday, otherwise real experiences of what might be human life. We don't have any arbitrary method of how to be a human being. A human being is quite versatile and flexible, and also quite diverse and individual. We of course are the same species, all of us, human being. But we do have different traits based on what country we're from, what culture we have, what religion we're following, and what everyday life has to offer experientially. There are many layers to what makes a human being in everyday social life, but also by yourself and in spiritual world. To have reverence and gratitude and appreciation for all of these mysteries and riddles of life, and trying to put the puzzle pieces together, makes it easier. It makes it much easier because it is not a quote-unquote forced or a forced struggle, more or less. Of you force yourself to do something you totally do not want to do. With appreciation and reverence, something you also have to train as a faculty and an ability on its own. It requires repetition and a new nerve paths. That means you have to do it in action and in thoughts and in emotions many times enough to make it deeds in everyday life autonomously. It is fully possible to form and shape our personality and a lot of our, what should we call it, your ego in the moral world. Of course, we do have karmic situations, karmic relationships. We have karmic emotions and experiences we have to go through, pain and struggle and such, to strengthen ourselves as human beings and also to lighten the load of our karma in general. Having appreciation and reverence for this doesn't make it any more. It makes it more a loving kind of duty, because you love doing this. It is, you become a guardian of Earth. It's hard to explain it, but you are every day doing action based on what you deem is more or less morally correct and inclined for yourself. We do, of course, participate in the world and share in on what we find. To be creative and explore and a little artistic and share your voice, share your verbal communications from your soul. Being honest, exploring in a poetic way, in a sense. That is how spiritual science works. It can only be described in pictures and artistry and poetry because it doesn't have any language yet. The earlier languages that were picturesque are too primal for today, and our today's consciousness is far too specialized and defined for the outer physical senses to explain inner spiritual faculties, you see. But to be able to explain it through the pictures, through the symbols, through the living, forming, shaping spirit of language and also of our body. Our body is a communication tool, in a sense. We communicate with our whole body. And the more we learn to communicate, the more we get to express our inner feelings and our inner longings and will impulses to a more clear degree, so you do not question, or others do not question, what your intentions are, because they are not impure. You do not do this because you want to gain something from someone or be something or someone. You are doing this because it is right and because you are sowing the seeds for the future. That is the sacrifice. Everyone can base every action they do on self-preservance and self-satisfaction and greed. But to sacrifice your own action and deeds to cultivate abilities you can teach others that might help in the future for the equilibrium, harmony and betterment of all. Something that might not exist in 100% physical form yet. It requires to cultivate it in your inner soul first. First in a thinking state, then in a more involved emotional state, and then you are starting to act upon it. I forgot the word for a second. The 3 stages of action, more or less. But it requires to exert yourself. It requires to be spiritually awake and active, conscious, and to be able to be a little flexible, form and shape yourself a little. Your body becomes more in tune with your soul that way, because you separate yourself a little from your physical body, so that your soul spirit becomes more in control of your present moment than your body otherwise would, so you don't get dragged everywhere because of your body's longings and lusts after everything. You instead become interested in others' inner world and thoughts and interests and experiences, instead of their car and their boat and their house. It is much more interesting, so much more interesting, to truly experience a human being. That is the treasures of this world. No amount of treasures can ever satisfy a man on this planet, ever. But to truly have a deep, meaningful conversation might stick with you for a whole lifetime. In the best of effects. And in the worst of effects, it's a double-edged sword, and that's where karma come in. And this is wonderful, because when you become aware of these concepts, of these realities that you can experience through not directly looking for them per se, but when they come, you have learned and taught yourself about this, and then you can recognize it when it comes, just out of the blue, if we are aware and awake enough. And that is how you slowly but surely get to know and be acquainted with the living spiritual world behind the physical, is to truly look for the signs, but not consciously and strainingly looking for signs, just be aware that they might show up, and looking for the right kind of thing often brings about a certain trust, faith. The faith becomes strengthened by it. That's the reverence, and that also is the amazement and the gratitude and appreciation. It makes it easier, much easier, and it is soul and heart filled. It is love. It's what it is. Thanks everyone. May the divine guide you all, and might you find your own path and your own techniques and your own journey on this. And may Christ also bring about love for all of you. Thank you, and goodbye.